The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
The North Kesteven series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Hello folks, welcome back to North Kesteven once again. The sun is just starting to rise behind me. It's going to be a beautiful day down here in Lincolnshire, and that means we're going to see some beautiful villages as well. Now, this one you may recognise from a Tales from the Village Green episode which I did a little while ago. In fact, it was the last time I was in North Kesteven. I called through this place on my way home. Well, now it's time to give it its main proper episode. And you may remember when you were at school in nativity plays and stuff like that, you maybe sang a certain song that went along the lines of "We Three Kings of Orient Are." We always used to sing a different version. It went something like, "We three kings of Orient are, one in a taxi, one in a car, one on a scooter, beeping his ooter, following Ringo Starr." But anyway, I digress. We have a different meaning for three kings in this part of Lincolnshire. It refers to three Danish kings who were apparently buried in this place, although some historians reckon that's complete nonsense. We'll soon find out. This is Threekingham. Threekingham, village of the Trickingers. This week we're in North Kesteven again as we continue to head towards the finishing line in the district. There's still 19 to go though, so we've some mileage to do yet. This one should be semi-familiar to all of you that watch every single thing I put out. Last time I was in North Kesteven, I stopped at Threekingham in order to make a little video about the village's name and the legend associated with it. Sometimes pronounced Threekingham, this one has confused historians and etymologists for a long time. Legend has it that the name Threekingham literally refers to three Danish kings who died in a battle fought close to the village. As such, all three are said to lie somewhere in the vicinity, hence the name Threekingham, supposedly meaning Three Kings Village. However, that's not concrete fact. If a battle did take place here, nobody knows exactly where, and there's never been any clues unearthed as to its occurrence. It's even known that one of the kings actually lies in a Northamptonshire village, casting further doubt over the legend. That hasn't stopped local folklore from doing what folklore does. The story led to the naming of the local pub, which even displays the heads of the three kings on its sign, along with carvings of them set into its walls. This is a parish with loads more to talk about anyway. How about the Whalebone Arch, for example, at Laundon Hall, or the Threekingham Beacon west of the old post office? The parish also includes two hamlets called Stow and Spanby. Let's delve into the Three Kings village and see what's fact and what isn't. So before we get to Threekingham itself, or if you will, Threekingham, we've got two small hamlets to cover first. One of them is called Stow, and that's got a bit of history which does link to Threekingham village and the legend of the three kings. However, the other one has pretty much nothing to do with that. It's just a tiny place by the name of Spanby, and that's where I am right now. Let's go. Before we get into Threekingham itself, let's get the two hamlets of Spanby and Stow out of the way first. This is Spanby, which has very little in the way of landmarks, save for one big one you simply can't miss. That would be its church, although this is no longer used as such anymore. Nonetheless, it remains a Grade 2 listed building. It was dedicated to St Nicholas and declared redundant by the Diocese of Lincoln in 1973. It's now used as a shed. The 1882 rebuilt red brick building is on or near the site of an earlier church, which dated from the 13th century. The door to the current vestry dates from the 14th century, so it could be on rather than near. The rest of Spanby is modest to say the least. It's effectively a cluster of households around the church and along a lane leading west and then south towards Threekingham. The Domesday Book lists the village as Spanby, recording that it had 12 households at that time. There's not many more than that today. The land here once belonged to Coulsane and Ogar the Breton. The place name is probably of Old Norse and Old Danish origin and probably means the farmstead or village where shingle for tiling is obtained. Aerial photographs and LiDAR earthwork surveys show that Spanby was once a much larger village. Census records back this up. In 1801 there were 59 people living in the hamlet, a figure that had risen to 115 by 1861. It's now fallen away again, quite dramatically. If you think Spanby's small, you've yet to see Stow. Mind you, this place is by far the more notable when compared to Spanby. There are two things that put Stow on the map. First of all, the fact that it too once had a church. The Domesday Book records two churches in Threekingham dedicated to St Peter and St Mary. St Peter's Church still stands in the main village, but the St Mary's the book refers to was here, in Stow. More accurately, it was located at Stow Green. Funerary remains found at Stow Green date back to the 11th and 12th centuries, and the church survived until the 18th century. It is possible that it was the site of a nunnery, founded in the late 7th century by St Werburgh. It's not known for sure, but if that was the case, it would have been dedicated to St Etheldreda. It was probably destroyed by the Danes in 870 AD. Keep that in mind for later. The connection between St Etheldreda and Stow Green is actually obvious when you think about it. The name Stow literally means a holy place, burial place, inhabited place, hermitage, or monastery. Legend has it that if the nunnery was founded here, the site was chosen because the saint's staff took root and sprouted leaves. So this field doesn't look like anything much, because effectively it's in the middle of nowhere. If I just show you around where I am, you can see all around me is beautiful Lincolnshire countryside. Not a house in sight. The only building you can actually see is the church in Threekingham over there, which we'll get a closer look at later. But otherwise, it's just nothingness. And this field is really the only thing of interest at this point. But what a field this is. Without this field, the whole Threekingham Parish and its history would not be a thing. And this is why. Stow Green Hill was also pretty important for Stow Fair. That was a medieval fair inaugurated in 1233. The Prior of Sempringham was granted permission in 1268 to hold it annually from the 23rd to the 25th of June every year. It continued into living memory, being run as a horse fair until 1954. There was an information board at this site which showed a photograph of the horse fair in 1908, but seemingly that's now disappeared. It seems likely that earlier fairs were held on the same days, one of which is the feast day of St Etheldreda. It should be noted though that historians are somewhat sceptical over a belief that the fair developed from earlier summer solstice rites. Stow Green Hill makes sense for the location of a fair. It's on the edge of some limestone hills looking north over the fens towards Sleaford. At around 108 feet above sea level, it would have been a commanding position at the time. Today the land is owned by the Crown Commissioners and farmed under a tenancy. Pedestrian access to the site is permitted, even though the field is a scheduled ancient monument. Our main walk begins at the local pub, the Three Kings Inn. Right off the bat, let's deal with the legend of the Three Kings and see if we can't separate myth from fact. The Three Kings Inn is an early 18th century pub which has been altered and expanded over the years. The inn is said to have remnants of an earlier structure. Local tradition says that King John once stayed at the inn after losing his jewels in the Wash, although it wouldn't have been this building if that's true. It also says that Robin Hood favoured the inn too, but again, do you believe in his legend? You can argue both points either way, but the Three Kings is no stranger to folklore tales. If you look into the wall that faces the road, you'll see a carved stone above an archway that says the Three Kings Inn, with painted busts of three men. It's only small, but it's enough to get its point across. Those are the supposed three Danish kings who died in the Battle of Stow in 869 or 870 AD. The story goes that the Danes were up against the Saxon kings of Holland, Lindsey and Kesteven, and the battle lasted 2 days. On the first day, the Danes were roundly defeated, and the three kings were killed. The Danish army were driven back to their camp and buried their slain kings. On day 2, they got revenge by defeating the Saxons. Various mounds around the village are said to be the kings' burial places. The story of the battle was originally told by Ingolf, but unfortunately it's unreliable. It's said to have taken place between Threekingham and Stow in an area known locally as the Danesfield. Moat Earthworks at Hall Close are said to be the remains of the Danish forces' camp, whilst the men of Kesteven were said to have mustered on Stow Green Hill to receive Holy Sacrament before the second day of fighting. This is one reason why a chapel was later built there, according to the legend. The fair at Stow Green was also supposed to have been held in commemoration of the Kesteven forces' last stand there. This all seems to make sense, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it's complete nonsense. Even though large numbers of skeletons have been found around the village, which are suggested to be the dead from the battle, other relics, including armour or weapons, have never been found. Furthermore, one of the slain kings is believed instead to lie in a Northamptonshire village and not here. The legend might be complete tosh, but it doesn't stop Threekingham from celebrating the battle by way of a reenactment or two. In 2023, a Viking festival took place in the heart of the village across 2 days, honouring the length of the battle. It was organised by the Aveland History Group. As part of the festival, the Battle of Stow was recreated, but it also featured an archaeologist who worked in a test pit to demonstrate the painstaking work entailed in hunting for Viking remains. Okay, so a couple of times previously here on TVI, we have seen some references to whalebone arches. I can remember one in Bempton in the East Riding series, but that arch no longer stands. Here in Threekingham, there is an actual whalebone arch, which you can have a look at because it stands right on the roadside. Now, this is the entrance to somebody's house. So basically, I'm not interested in the house. I'm more just interested in the structure itself, the whalebone arch, which marks the entrance. And this has got an interesting backstory to it, almost as legendary as the Three Kings. Before Threekingham was called Threekingham, it allegedly had a different name, Laundon. Not far from the Three Kings Inn is Laundon Hall, and this has a tale of its own to tell, which is certainly more fact than fiction, unlike the Battle of Stow Field. This here is a whalebone arch which marks the entrance to the hall. It's said to be a memento of an unfortunate expedition undertaken by a member of the Cragg family in the 19th century. The family had interests in the whaling business, you see. It's made from the jawbone of a real-life, actual whale. Blimey, they must be big creatures. It's since been repaired and strengthened with a conservation-grade adhesive. Missing external surfaces have been modelled with glass fibre and an architectural acrylic resin. That was sanded down and painted to match the rest of the arch. Let's go to the church now, the only one remaining in Threekingham these days, given the one at Stow has now gone. This is dedicated to St Peter ad Vincula, or St Peter in Chains if you will. It became a Grade 1 listed building on the 1st of February 1967. A Saxon church mentioned in the Domesday Book was located here, but the Normans began rebuilding the church in 1170. Parts of the church, notably the door and the porch, date back to 1310. It has a sundial on a turret to the left of the porch that says 1688 Gift of Edmund Hutchinson, Gentleman. Internally, the church contains 3 14th century tombs, one of which contains a man named John, who was a former lord of Threekingham. It also has 2 full-size effigies from the 12th century of a knight and his lady. The spire was restored in 1872 and it's well known throughout Lincolnshire. Some church experts have even gone so far as to say it's the best brooch spire in England. Well, we've seen a few. What do you reckon? And if you exit the churchyard this way, you get a side profile of Laundon Hall, which is the building behind me right there. No whalebone arch here though, that's for the main entrance off the other road. Now we're going to take a right turn here out of the churchyard and basically just complete the circuit of Threekingham. It's a very simple village, just a simple case of walking around in a great big loop. But even though we've seen the main landmarks now, the Three Kings Inn, the Whalebone Arch and the church, there are some other things still to discuss, including several burial mounds, or what historians reckon might be burial mounds. No one actually knows for sure. One of them is called the Threekingham Beacon, which we're going to make our way towards now. Now let's complete the circuit of the village. It's only a small one, this. Going back to the name, Threekingham, if it's got nothing to do with the Three Kings, what does it actually mean? Well, instead it's believed to mean the home of Trick's people, deriving from a Brittonic personal name, though it's unclear whether Trick himself was a Briton or whether he was descended from Anglo-Saxon migrants. His tribe, though, were linked with Skegness and probably settled here at some point after travelling along the Roman Salter's Way. Today, the route of the Salter's Way is marked by the modern A52, which skirts the edge of the village to the north. Rounding the corner, we take in the westernmost portion of the village and head in the direction of that road. If you do that, be sure to look to your left-hand side, because there's an interesting mound, or hillock. There are mounds all over the village, but whether or not they're remnants of the battle is open to debate. This one is part of a set of ancient earthworks called Threekingham Beacon. Nobody knows for sure what it is, but there are theories. It wasn't a castle, that's for sure. Instead, the mound is interpreted as a prospect or mount, an ornamental garden feature designed to overlook the formal gardens around a hall. The ditch surrounding the mound is thought to represent the remains of water features designed to enhance the mound's visual impact. The mound has also been interpreted as a tumuli or barrow, a suggestion that was put forward in the late 18th century. An OS inspector who visited the site in 1965 believed that it was a spoil mound. An ancient pound or pinfold is mentioned as being in the same field as the mound in 1945. This may be another garden feature, possibly the walled garden or animal stockade mentioned in a 1997 scheduling document. It could even have been a windmill mound. I mean, one of them wouldn't have been out of place down here. There are records of a post office in Threekingham in the 1860s. I can confirm that, but it's likely it wasn't sited here. Nonetheless, this is the last place the post office was in the village before it closed down. The post box on the road outside is a massive clue. Our last job is to take a wander along the top road which links us back to the Three Kings Inn. Before the modern A52 was built to bypass Threekingham, this lane would have been the main road through the village. Now it's quiet, barely used by anyone except the locals. Mind you, the noise of the A52 can still be heard from here. It still bears the name Salter's Way in reference to the time when the Romans would carry salt along it from the Wash to Grantham. You'll recall we learned about that in Donington. Okay, one job left to do before we leave Threekingham behind, and that is to leave a card on the parish notice board. Now, I haven't found a parish notice board yet. Might have missed it somewhere, I'm not totally sure. But I guess this comes pretty close. It's a bus shelter which was, according to this plaque that's behind the camera, erected by the inhabitants of Threekingham to commemorate the coronation of King George VI. So, I guess this is as good as a parish notice board. There are some other cards in here from other people, so now they can have mine as well. There we go. TVI has been to the place of the Three Kings. So you can believe what you like about Threekingham and the tale of the three Danish kings. Were they killed here and buried in the village? It's the stuff of myth and legend, and nobody knows for definite whether or not the Battle of Stow was a real thing. Regardless, the locals like their little bit of folklore, and it's on display proudly throughout their village. See you tomorrow for another. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.